Hello and hola from the enchanted lands of Albuquerque, Nuevo Mexico. I am Luis Lopez-Maldonado and I am glad you are here with me today. During this short video, I will be focusing on the beauty and the power of words, poetry to be exact. I will be highlighting this nation's first Latino poet laureate, Juan Felipe Herrera, poet, performer, playwright, cartoonist, teacher, and activist. I encourage you to view my entire interview with Juan Felipe that I conducted through the Institute for Latino Studies and the University of Notre Dame during the fall of 2016. You're in for a treat. I first met this incredible force while as an undergraduate student at the University of California Riverside around 2010. Poets and mentors Chris Abani and Christopher Buckley encouraged me to read works from Latino authors when I was just starting to write. It was their fault I now admire poets like Juan Felipe. And during my MFA at Notre Dame, I had the opportunity to work with and for Juan Felipe, conducting an interview on behalf of Latino Studies, and then participating as a performer, presenting one of his masterpieces in our university theater. There were so wonderful memories that year. So, let's dive into one of his poems from one of his many books. I will be highlighting the same book as I used for our interview in 2016. Here is a copy of that book titled Notes on the Assemblage. I recommend buying this if you do not already have it. Now, as artists and as people, we all have definitions of what poetry is, or what should poetry be. So my observation is this: what is poetry to you? What makes it a poem? And who has the right to say if it is good or not? Well, these are all great questions, and when speaking about the work of someone like Juan Felipe, we will have thousands of possibilities for answers. Here is one of my favorite poems titled Almost Livin', Almost Dyin'. For all the dead. I hear my streets with ragged beats, and the beats are too beat to live, so the graves push out with hands that cannot touch the markers of light. And the sun flames down through the roofs and the roofs that slide to one side, and the whistling fires of the cops and the shops do what they gotta do, and your body's on the fence and your ID's in the air, and the shots get fired, and the gas in the face and the tanks on your blood, and the innocents all around, and the spillin' and the grillin' and the grinnin' and the game of the race. No one wanted, and the same every day, so you fire and eat the smoke through your long bones and short mace, and the day? This last sweet swisher day that turns to love, and no one knows how it came, or what it is, or what it says, or what it was, or what for, or from what gate it is open, it is locked. Can you pull it back to your life filled with bitter juice and demon angel eyes? Even though you pray and pray, mama says you gotta sing. She says you got wings. But from what skies, from where could they rise? What are the things, the no things called love? How can its power be fixed or grasped? So the beats where you are alone or maybe dead, and the truth carves you, and calls you back still alive. Cry, cry the candles by the last 4 trees still soaked in Michael Brown red. And Officer Lou red, and Officer Ramos red, and Eric Garner, whose last words were not words. They were just breath, asking for help, asking for breath. They were just burning like me, like we are all still burning. Can you hear me? Can you feel me swagging tall and driving low and talking fine and hollering from my corner crime and frying against the wall? Almost living, almost dying, almost living, almost dying. So you can see the power of his words, the intention behind the themes in this poem, and how important speaking on the current culture or climate of this nation really is. That is one thing I appreciate about Juan Felipe. He has a magical way of connecting with human kindness, with human emotion, and in return, readers are changed. I challenge you to write also about the current culture and happenings. Help us document the good, the bad, and the in between. Help us light dark corners and inspire those oppressed voices. Juan Felipe believes in these types of writings and once told me, I have always been writing socially and culturally centered poems, and as well as experimental poems and performance poems. And I too have used my surroundings in my words, making sure not only to write about what I know and what I experience, but to also write about what I believe and I witness. Warning, shameless plug number one. In my first collection of poetry, Mexican Bird, which you should also go buy and own, I want to share with you one poem titled hashtag Hands Up, Don't Shoot. Here, I recognize my immediate surroundings and inform the reader of our reality. I think of 2014 and how blacks are still being killed for being black. Hashtag Mike Brown. How the brown people are still labeled ilegal, even when it was the whites who came into our land and killed our people and named it America. I think of who I am, who I know, who I represent. I am the rainbow during the fucking rain. I am the hungry little boy out in the streets. I am the whore in Paris who lets you penetrate me for $200, come inside of me for an extra 25. I am the cloth-covered Muslim on his knees, praying for who knows what, every day at the same time, just as the sun begins to set. I am that pretty young Asian girl going under the knife to look more white. Cut my eyelids off and give me bigger eyes, she says. I hide between walls, talk to trap spirits, steal an ice cream, Snickers bar from Walmart. Give a fake homeless man $5 on the side of the road to feed his addictions. We all have addictions. It feels like 1960, cops beating down unarmed citizens, men in heels getting bashed and lost, our president being called a homosexual and a monkey. Hashtag what the fuck? Hashtag history repeats itself. Hashtag God is watching. Another thing that struck me in the conversation with our fabulous Plotus was the following definition he gave me of art. He said, art is not a goal, it is a new space. Take a moment to process that. Art is not a goal, it is a new space. And that resonated with me. And it inspired me to rethink many concepts under the umbrella of creativity. As a graduate student constantly drowned in academic politics and creative competition, while at Florida State University and the University of Notre Dame, this was a humbling moment that allowed me to deconstruct everything I knew I was learning and these new spaces I existed in and would exist in. Another poem from this book that I can read over and over again, to be honest, is his poem titled Half Mexican. And I'm going to share that with you now. And it goes like this. Odd to be a half Mexican. Let me put it this way. I am Mexican plus Mexican. Then there's the question of the half. To say Mexican without the half. Well, it means another thing. One can say only Mexican. Then think of pyramids, obsidian flaw, flame etchings, goddesses with flayed visages, claw, feet, and skulls as belts. These are not Mexican. They are existences. That is to say, slavery, sinew, hearts, shredded, sacrifices for the continuum, quarks and galaxies, the cosmic milk that flows into trees and darkness. What is the other? Yes, it is Mexican too. Yet it formulates and formless, it is speckled with particles, European pieces. To say colony or power is incorrect. Better to think of Kant in his tiny room, shuffling in his black socks, seeking out the notion of time, or Einstein, reworking the erroneous equation concerning the way light bends. All this has to do with the half and the half thing. When you are half being, time, light, how they stalk you and how you beseech them. All this becomes your lifelong project. That is, you are Mexican. One half Mexican, the other half Mexican. Then the half against itself. And like these themes explored in this poem, I too have explored similar themes. Warning, now here's plug number 2. An example is my poem from my second book of poetry, Gay Poetics of the Passion. Also, I recommend getting. And it is from the section called Brown Boy Talks Queerness and Displacement in America, or Flowers Bloom Even in Dry Grasses. It's titled number 12, and I would like to share this with you now. I am the offspring of the mixed Indian-Spanish blood, the mestizo. I evolved in Chicano into one of the defeated peoples, Mexicanos that lost their land to the white man, lost their culture to gringo, who claims indigenous land as its own. I am the offspring who hides behind black branches, the Mexican or greaser, same thing. That prays to La Virgencita Morena, that begs to be heard, prays up to the stars in search of something more than just a stereotype. In search of more than picking red apples hard as knees, naranjas, fresas. I am a mixed man, a lost face searching for his own voz. I hang around now in the dark, belonging to a cursed race, looking up to dead beams of light, 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 making wishes that will never, ever come true. Well, thanks for hanging out with me and taking some time to listen and to be in the present moment as the war in Gaza continues and trucks exploding at hotel entrances and criminal cases in courtrooms as gun claims more and more student lives, my student lives, and Los Angeles burns into the sky still, we cannot stop looking forward. I challenge you, and I challenge you to write one poem a day. Use your voice to observe the world around you, because your human responsibility is to be human and do better than those that came before us. Keep your eyes open. Do not let yourself be defeated. And please, take care of yourselves. Yo soy Luis Lopez-Maldonado. Muchas gracias y que viva la poesía.